we were discussing the couple of things, mainly what we are going to cover. We are going to cover array of technologies, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and PHP, MySQL. But remember that you know that I will not be able to cover everything from this. But if you have not have done any of these, so I'll be giving a brief introduction to all the technologies that you need to know about the web technologies. And if the time also permit, I would like to work on at least one or two frameworks, at least giving an introduction so that you are comfortable with different web technologies available. If you need a theoretical book on this, especially if you want to learn more about this, how these technologies evolve and so on. So what I'm going to refer is the Jennifer Robbins book on learning web design, which is 5th edition. Right. So, like I think you are familiar with my previous courses, all the continuous assessment were done as group works. We will assign small work, and as a group work, you are going to work in groups, and then you are going to individually submit your work, right? So having said that, let's quickly move on to what we have discussed last time. Basically, we have done HTML. I already know that you have already done some of this, but I want to make sure that you have covered everything. So one of the most important part when it comes to HTML is the form handling, because as the project work today, I will list you like what exactly you should do for the project work. Is to handle data. That means you should be able to use web interface to collect data, store it in a way that different people can take different views of the data, right? Now for that, we have to start with the form. Usually we have a tag pair form, and we end with the slash form. And then mainly the different input types we can change using input tag. For example, the simple form you can create using input type text, right? So this is usually one of the examples where you will take first name and last name in simple text boxes, right? And then you are providing a name for this name I will discuss later on. Actually, once user enters the input, this particular name could be used to refer the user input. Then we also discuss, I think, about the password fields, especially when we want to have multiple user accounts or multiple user access in the web interface. We will provide the logging into the system, and then we should not show the passwords to the user. So for that, we have to use a special input type. So this time we will use type password here. Right. Okay. So that's about the passwords. Then different form attributes are there. We discussed these tag attributes earlier as well. For example, when you have paragraph, you can use alignment to decide where to align a particular paragraph. So likewise, in a form, the one of the main attributes is action attribute, where we want to direct what should happen to the data in it, right? And then you have also have a target attribute, which defines whether you are going to open up with a new browser tab, or whether you are going to perform in the same window. So that's the default value, self. But let's say you want to work on this action page PHP in a new tab, then you can specify both form action, action page, and target as underscore blank, where it will open up a new browser window. Right. Then there are two methods which we will use to submit the data. So I will again come back later also. The two methods which we will use is get and post. There's a slight difference where get and post is used. Now, if you use get, now for example here, we say form action page PHP method is get, right? If you use get, whatever you submitted data will be visible in the page address. So for example, if you submit something like first name and last name using get, right? So it'll show in the URL like this. So action PHP question mark first name Mickey and last name Mouse, which means like this is the value we are going to send. So it will visible to the users. Whereas if you use post, especially when you have personal information or sensitive information, it is highly recommended that you use post method, and it will not submit the data that actually you use. So you have to be very careful about which method to use when you are submitting data through a web interface. The next thing that we have discussed is the submit form, right? So in this case, we call input type is submit, which actually define a small, submit button. Right now, previous to we already have seen they are text boxes. We input type is text. The second one also the input type is text. The last one is submit, which will create a submit button where you can actually submit it this. Okay. Now, sometimes whatever you input in the form, we need to clear out, right? There are various reasons why you have to actually clear out the forms. To clear out the content, we can use what we call the reset button. Now, earlier we discussed submit button. Now, for that input type is submit. So likewise, for the resetting, we can make use of input type reset. So which this will can be used to reset, but when you click it, it will clear out all the field forms. In this particular case, first name and last name were clear out so that you can start refresh. Right, so that's about the different types of buttons available. Then there are other ways of getting input, especially when you want to make options. Now, for example, if you take a gender of a person, usually you can limit it to a few options: male, female, and other. I put other here is, for example, if you take babies when they are born, sometimes they are not going to put into one of these categories in the beginning, right? So it could be the male or female, or it may be unidentified or something, right? So in this particular case, you will see we are creating radio buttons input type, and we call radio, meaning radio buttons, which means you are going to select one of the options. Here there are three options, you are going to select one of them. So the input type we call radio button here, radio, and you give a name for this, and then there will be a set of values. The default selected could be used using the checked. So if you compare all the three, so the second one is almost the same, but with the checked one, it will select that particular option. So the default select. So if you have not changed the value, it will select as a male, the gender. Then we will also have like multiple choices, but for example, what do you like, right? So if you want to select 0 or more options with the limited number of choices you might have, then we should use checkboxes. You will get a square shaped box like this. You can select a 0 or more, right? Okay. Okay, so this is interesting one, commonly used, especially when you want to enter date of birth, the registration dates and payment date and so on. So usually you will get what we call the calendar view. Now for that, we have to use input by type date, and then you can name it. So for example, you can restrict the data. Now, for example, if you are going to say enter a date before 19 January 1st, 1980, so then you can say the max value, you specify as a max value, and it says 1979 1231. Or if you want to select a date after particular date, then you specify minimum value, right? So this is sometimes easier when we just use, calendar or the date information. Okay, another one, in HTML forms nowadays you can use type email if you expected to enter email addresses. So input type email could be used to get an email. Okay, so sometimes you want to give a range or quantity. Now, for example, let's say you want to add a quantity between 1 and 5. So you can say input type as number, and then you can specify minimum and maximum values. So which means you can select one of the values between 1 and 2. Right. So that's about the basic input types. So the basic input types, we talk about the text and submit, reset, and so on. There are many input types you need to consider when you're designing interfaces. One of the things that we are going to also look at today is you are going to create the visual interfaces or couple of visual interfaces of your proposed project, where you will use these options, right? So I hope the whatever the knowledge that we gain here you should be able to use it for the as input, right? So let's move to the next one. Now sometimes you need to group them, right? Now for example, let's say you want to get personal information separately, professional information separately, and so on, right? So in this particular case, in the example, we will have a first name, you have a text box, last name again a text box, and the submit button, and then you actually put you in a separate group we call personal information. So for that, we use the tag pair called field set. So field set will give you, a separate access to a set of HTML tags, and then you put up a legend value for this particular field set. And within that, you will have two text boxes as well as one submit button. Right. Now, sometimes you can use other attributes to modify the way the content look like. Now, let's say you want to add, first name, right? So you can specify initial value for this. Now, for example, if you take input type text, that means you are going to define a text box and you name it as a first name, and then you say value is John, which means it will place this within the text box. Now, sometimes the values we should not allow users to change at all. There are some reasons why you should do this. Now, those cases we can say it's read only at the end. Okay, and disabled attribute, you can specify and say the input field is disabled. So you can say input type text, name, first name, value chosen, and disabled. Several more examples of this. Now, let's say you are going to specify the size. Now, when you get a name, for example, you can allow user to enter any number of characters, but this should be limited, because otherwise it'll unnecessary space is used to store this kind of a data. Now, for example, when you say input type text and the size is 40, that means you can have 40 characters in this. So another way is you can change the length of the input field. So you see max length, you can specify a value. The next one, actually, you can use form elements. In this particular case, when you want to select one or multiple things from already, if you have a list. So for example, here we have cars, name is cars, option is the option that particular. So you have a set of cars here, and then you can select multiple cars from, this is called drop down list. Right, so select the car and you can have multiple options where users can select one of them. Okay, so with the options, you can select couple of things. Now, for example, if you say option value fiat selected, which means it will pre-select. Otherwise, user has to manually select. So if you want, let's say you want to select the fiat as a default value, then you should say that. Number of visible values, you can set the size, right? Especially when you have long lists, you better limit it. So in this particular case, it will limit to size of 3. And then if you want to select more than one value, then you can say, okay, multiple, which will allow it to select multiple, in this particular multiple elements, right? Yes. Then text area. So text area is where you can get users' opinion, sometimes feedback, where you can take a large text. So this can see it as a large text block where you specify number of rows and number of columns, right? And once submitted, you take as a text. And the next one is button element. Buttons, we earlier talk about the submit button, reset button, but you can use buttons to perform interactive. Witty, for example, here we use a button tag with that you type button and use of online click. So that means this button, when you click it, it will display hello world in a window. Okay, last one under HTML. So there's a data list elements as well. If you want to select this, now for example here, let's say we need a user to select one of the operating systems, the browsers in the operating system. So in this particular case, you will see that it names as data list and the ID is browsers, and then you provide any optional values. Okay, so with this one, we will finish discussing the HTML. Before we start the CSL, that is the Cascading Style Sheets, where we can work on what we call the presentation of documents. That means the visual appeal, how things should be displayed on screen, paper, in other medium. You can define using Cascade Style Sheets or CSS. If you look at the benefits of using CSS, so it's precise type and layout controls. So by changing the CSS style, you can easily change the layout, how it look like. And then instead of embedding styles with the HTML code, you can separate out. So you will have a less work. And then more accessible site, especially now we are going to see the web pages in desktop computers, laptop computers, even the mobiles, right? So you have more accessible sites. Now, when we write CSS styles, we have already seen some. We have a couple of things. First of all, you have to have a selector. Now, selector means a particular tag. Now, let's say in particular case H1. Now, we are going to specify the presentation of or appearance of H1. How should what are the changes that we are going to make it? So that part will be within the curly brackets. So you will see here. Yes, you will see here we have H1. This is specified particular tag in HTML. And then we specify some set of properties and values. So we are going to say color is blue. We already discussed this, color is blue. And font size is we call 20 pixels, px. Right? So let me just show you like how this will look like. So I'm going to get Notepad. That's very simple one. Right. Let me share the screen. So here is what I have. Now what I'm going to do is use of CSS. Now before we use of CSS, right, we can write everything. Now for example, we know from earlier that we have to have HTML and then we have /HTML, right? And then we have two things. We have head /head, and then we have body. We have /body, right? So this is the structure of the document. Now, one of the simplest way to do this is you can, let's say H1, let me put title. I'm going to make it as CSS test. And then let's say welcome to CSS. So let me save this. I'm going to save this. Save as. I will go to C IT509. Okay, so I'm going to select yes CSS test.html. So let me go to the place where we have the file. So it's in C IT509 and CSS test, and let me share the output. So this is how it look like. So this is what I have, what we have. Let me share the full screen. Right. So this is how it look like. Right. Now let's use H. We will say H1, and then we can have /H. Let me save it, refresh it. Now this is what I have. Now whenever you want to change something, there are many ways you can do this. First, you can say style. Right? So you can say style, and then within the style you can have a set of values. Right? Remember last time we discussed this idea. You can use style, and then within the style we can actually make use of change of the colors. So that is called style. Right? So whenever you say the style, so you can put colons, double quotes in this particular case, and then you can set properties and values. Right. So in this particular case, what we have said earlier is you can say color blue. Right. So this is what I have put. So this is styles. So which is changes to blue color. And then also we can change the font size. I can change to 12 pixels. So if I save it, refresh it, Yes, it has changed. The way the header one looks like, default value has changed. Right. Another way to do this, so we can use it as what we call the internal. We can say this as an internal. So internal style sheets, we call internal. So another way to do this is we will have, instead of we will have this style, we could put it in this way. So I'm going to remove this. I will have only H1, and instead of say H1, we will specify the values, right? So in this particular case, we will put up the style. So I can put, let's say, a style here. So this is, we are going to discuss under same figure, which we call internal style or external. So in this particular case, we will say style. And then we can say H1, then you can specify how H1 should look like. Now, for example, here we can say, okay, the color, you can say blue. So that's all we have. So if I save it, file save, refresh it, so you will get the H1 header in blue color. Okay, I want a small exercise. I want you to put in a simple groups, create a simple form with first name, last name, and date of birth. First name, last name, and date of birth. And then use CSS to change the basic colors of the fonts, right? Shall we start? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put you in some breakout rooms. So in this particular case, I'm going to put in a breakout rooms. I will repeat what you are going to do. I want you to create a simple form to get first name, last name, and date of birth, right? And then I want you to use a simple CSS for the color of text and the background color, right? So we have about 13 today. So let's see breakout rooms. Yes, how many we have today? We have 14. Let me put 3. So I will get everyone, send you a chat session what exactly you should do.
දාලා ස්ක්‍රීන් කප් කරලා යෝග්‍යත දාලා අපේ හදලා මට මදි මේක කරන්න වෙනවා. මේක දැන් කරලා දැන් නැත්නම්
colon blue semicolon.
Body okay, color blue is not. We need to put the font color, no?
Yeah, instead of writing font color, we need to write color only.
එකක් දාමුද? හා කීබෝඩ් එකකට දාමු. Sir, how to share the code, sir?
අනේ CSS ටික වැඩ කරන්නේ නෑනේ.
Sir,
Style capital S නෑ නේද? ඒක මත් අවුලක් නෑ නේද?
ඒක කමන්නේ නැහැ. ඒක අවුලක් නැහැ.
සර්ගේ මයික් එක ඔෆ් කරලා.
sir,
Okay, okay. Sorry. Yeah,
sir,
I did it. Yes.
Sir, can we share the screen among ourselves, sir?
Yeah. I allowed it. Can you check?
It's disabled. Message is coming.
Right.
No, now it should be able to. Can you check?
Still it's coming, sir.
So I allowed.
Shanika, are you trying this?
Yeah, give me 1 minute.
Shanika, will see whether you can share the screen.
Shanika, try that.
Yes, sir. I will, sir. Can you give me 1?
No problem. Go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, can I share my screen?
Yeah, you can. Yes.
This is a code, sir.
Okay. Yeah, this is exactly what I need. Maybe you can also use, remember we use field set.
Yeah, that's which one, sir?
We talk about that separating out. If you want to put up a frame inside this,
Yeah.
okay. You can use it.
Okay, sir.
It's not necessary. I'm just saying, yeah, in case if you wanted to.
Okay, sir.
I think that's enough, right?
This one is okay, no?
Yeah, only that. Yes.
Thank you.
Right. Now okay. I copy and paste chat. Now can you check it's okay or not everybody is? I don't know. Your idea, you can check.
Pragit, why don't you show your screen so that others can also see? Okay, exactly. If you want, you can use field set as well. Remember that now we have seen earlier like grouping data elements. So maybe you can group these three, two text boxes and the
Frame set like this.
yes.
Okay.
Field set, yes.
CO now try.
I guess that is just the color, as I remember. Shall we
It's
search?
just color. It's just color.
Color, no? Color, yeah. Is it because of this space?
Aki, put it red color, then we can. No, it's okay.
Here, are we going to use semicolon to
You have to
separate?
Yes, sir.
you have to save the document. You have to save that, not that.
I'll just save all the things by using controllers.
Shashi message
I don't.
If
Wait.
After head, we need to use a style. No, it's
So
work
this-
for the background. That should be works for the.
Now the problem is the tag that you have used. It says text,
Is
right?
it text?
No, it's not text, right?
Shanika.
Then it's better if we use some.
No, either you put it in the the body itself, because then it will apply to everything, or else you define some ID or some select
It's better to use it ID.
Shanika.
ID. So we
Yes.
have not discussed that part yet.
Then we'll use ID here.
Yeah, you can use some ID and then you can put that ID in the input box.
#txt or something, and then we'll use the ID as. Sir, when we have a ID already ID here, can we just
F name, we can
the
use
same
F
ID?
name. Yes.
Then I'll just remove this one and just use it. We have already name here, no need to delete.
Shanika, there's a message from Sashi. She's telling that you have to define the style. Check the message.
Style equal text.
Yeah.
That's what we use, neither.
No.
We'll now it's correct, no? Is it correct?
Yes, text. Yes, red. Now red in color.
So that part actually we have not discussed this ID selector.
Hello.
So if it is not clear, I will talk about this after the. I think everyone finishes. I think we can go back to main meeting now. Yes. Hello, everyone. Back to CSS. Few things I have noted. Now, first of all, you have to identify how you should use CSS with HTML. Now, one thing I discuss is only use of what we call selectors, maybe a tag, particular tag that we are going to use. Now, for example, here, we are going to change the tag h1, how it behaves. Now, here we define the color as blue and font size as 12 pixels. So usually you have pairs of value, property and the value separated by semicolons. So for example, here we use to change paragraph P. Now here what we are going to change in paragraph, we change the text color into red and we align the paragraph to center. So this will apply whenever, so all the paragraphs in the HTML document. Now, when you look at different selectors, the very first one is we call element selector. Element selector means we can select the element by its name, like paragraph, like H1, like H2. Or else you can select specific element. We use ID selectors. Now we use hash symbol like this, paragraph 1. Now let's say all the paragraphs are, you are going to put in center and with the red color, and then a particular paragraph you may actually change it, right? So then you can use hash here and paragraph 1. So either you use paragraph, the element selector, or we can use ID selector, right? Then you can say class selector. So you can define different classes and then you can actually select one of these classes. Now, for example, class we define with the dot here, and dot center means like we are defining a class called center and we align the text into center and color is red, right? Now, for example, you can define multiple classes and one tag may belongs to more than one class. Now, for example, here in example, we define two classes. Class, we can say center and large, which means we are going to make use of two classes, apply these styles into paragraph. But if you want to select a particular element which affects the class, then for example, we can say p.center, which will affect the paragraphs, right? Where you have the class center. So that we can actually change. So make sure that the very first thing is you need to understand how you are going to select. So depend on the situation, you can either use the elements like P, like H1, or you use create different IDs. I have seen some of you have created IDs, and or else you may use classes or use specific elements with the classes. So let's later on see like how we use each other. The next one is like if you're like applying the same style again and again. Now look at this example where we have H1, we are text align, center line with color red, and H2 also center line and color red. Paragraph also center line and color red, which means we can combine these three. Like you can, instead of having three values like this, you can say H1, H2, P, and you can have everything. So this will apply all the elements H1, H2, and P. So this is we call grouping selectors. Now we have discussed about the different types of selectors, and then we actually talk about the grouping selectors. Now, whenever you want to remove something, now sometimes or you want to have some comments, then usually we can use slash and star, and you can end also with star and then slash. Now, for example, here we are going to define a comment inside. Sometimes this is very, very useful if you want to omit some CSS command. For example, let's say I want to change this color red. I want to just neglect it. So then you can make it to a comment. So same thing could be used for multi-line comments as well, right? Even for multi-line comments, you can use the same. The next important thing I have seen some of you actually use it as entire. So there are three ways that actually you can create or engage the CSS style sheets, right? First one, you can make it as a external style sheet. So external style sheet means you create separate file. Now, for example, here we are going to create a mystyle.css, a separate file, and with this link attribute, right, within head, we are going to say link. We will have a style sheet, the type text CSS, and href we will say mystyle.css. So here I actually assume both the HTML as well as CSS is in the same folder. So which we will create it as a external style sheet. The beauty of this is then you can actually share among multiple HTML pages. Now, for example, if you are designing a web page, and if you want to have the styles applied to all the web pages in the website, then you actually can create a separate CSS external style sheet. Okay, the next one is internal. Now this is what I have seen. Now it's, if you are going to include all the styles in the same HTML file, then you better put style and /style. Within that you can actually define the commands, right? So here the body and the h1, the elements, and then here we change the background color, and here we actually change the color of h1, and we are putting a margin. Margin I actually talk about later on how you may actually put the margin. For the time being, let's stick into basics. So now we have discussed two ways of inserting style sheets. External style sheet, that means you create a separate file. Internal style sheets, that actually you include the command within style and /style. And the third one is we have already discussed in the previous session, inline styles, where we will put style attribute, and within that we will define CSS commands, right? So this we have already discussed earlier, right? So there are three ways actually you can include CSS into HTML. So as an external style sheet, or internal style sheets, or inline styles. So all the three are possible. Now, when you have multiple style sheets are there. What do you mean by multiple style sheets? Now this is something, sometimes what will happen, you might use multiple style sheets and you use same selector and then you are modified. So what you need to remember is the same selector using the different style sheets, last one will be used, right? So this example, right, you can see there's a separate external style sheets where we have a h1, and then you have a internal h1, and this is what will happen, right? Okay, let me show you this. So this is one of the important ones. So I will go back. I'm going to create and show you like how exactly we are going to do. So I'm going to have notepad, and then let me share my screen. So let me put my screen one. Right. Now I'm going to create a separate style sheets. And I'm going to include only h1. So only the CSS commands. So usually you will have a selector. Here we have h1, and then let's say I'm going to change the color of the text. So color, I'm going to use navy color. That's all I'm going to say for the time being. So let me save this file. Let me say save as. I will go to IT509. I will save it as my style.css. Right. Now I actually saved this. So now I can close this, no change. So I'm just close this, right? Okay. Now let me use my other notepad window. Where is it? So let me use notepad again. Right, let me open up, right, all the files, CSS test. So this is what I have, right? So this is what I have, and this is the output. So let me check whether it's the output. So is it here? Okay, no, I don't have it. Let me double click on it. CSS test. Okay, this is what I have. So I will remove this internal one just to, talk about this. Let's first apply the style sheet as a separate one, right? Now to do this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create link. I'm going to have it as a style sheet, and the type I will define it as a text CSS, and then href sorry, and then I'm going to define that my style.css. Right, this is what I have. If you remember what we have, I'm going to save, Control S, and if I refresh, so you'll see that navy color, a little bit darker color than the previous one. Now this is called external style sheet. Why external? We will save the command in a separate file, my style, and we say navy, that is a darker blue color to the text. Now let me put it as a, yes, as a internal style. So I'm going to define that style, and I ended with style. So if you put it in this way, that means this is belongs to only to this file. So let me change H1 here as well. So H1, so this time I'm going to change the color as orange, right? So I will make it orange. Let me save. Now what do you expect? Okay, I made a mistake here. So here we have to put a bracket. Yeah, that's S. Yes. Now you see what has happened. Now earlier we have the external sheet. Now this is called internal sheet. So what you will at the end is the last one, right? So that's what will happen. Now if you change this to this inline, let's change this style. If I put this, so this is called what we call inline. So it will affect the inline style sheet. So remember, when you have multiple sheets, what exactly happens, right? So let me share the slides again. So in this particular case, let's go back to share design multiple style sheets. If you have multiple styles, then the last one will be applied, right? So the order, right? This order will be used. Now, for example, the inline style, the inside the HTML element, and then you have external and internal style sheets, especially in head section selection, as well as the browser default. The way HTML page presented will be changed from browser to browser. So you can view this. For example, you can open in Chrome as well as open in some, let's say, Edge. Sometimes you see the difference, because if you have not defined style sheets for all the elements, so some cases The look and feel will be slightly different, right? So make a note of this. Right, now I saw some of you were wondering how to put the colors. So let me look at briefly how we may use CSS colors. Now, for example, when you want to change the background color, you can say H1. So the style is background color. So this is what you need to remember in the CSS. And then you can put some colors in the name. Then you can change the text color if you want, right? That the color of a text using the color, and then you can specify the color information. Then you can also put up a border. I will show you this. And then with the border, you can specify some details like the size of the border, the type of a line, as well as the color, right? And this color information could be used as a name like here, or you can specify it as a RGB values, or you can actually specify it a hexadecimal value, right? So before we go into this, so let's put some colors as well. So if you go to the particular website I have given, if you can look at this, what are the possible the color names you can use, right? So there are a lot of colors could be represented using the color names. That is possible, right? So let me quickly show you a few of these what we have done earlier. So let me use the same file and let me share the screen. So this is my screen one. Okay, so this is the CSS, right? So I can use many ways to do this, but for the time being I'm using inline. So this is H1. We have welcome to CS. So I'm going to just copy this. I'm going to modify a couple of things just to show you like what will happen in different things. Now, already we know about the background color. So let me start with the first one. I'm going to say background color, and we will define this color as so let me save and see whether we have this. So you will see that the background color has actually changed, right? And then since the internal style sheets, we said orange color, we will see the orange color here, right? And then H1 style color tomato. So it's a different color we are going to specify. Yes, you know that second one now it's a color is more also the tomato color we have taken. So let's specify the border as the third one. So we have border 2 pixels. That means the weight of this border solid. That means it will be light. So it's tomato. Yes, let's save it. So when you refresh it, you will see that there will be a border. So you can change this number of pixels. Let's say 5 pixels. Yes, refresh it. You see you have a large border within this welcome CSS. Then you can specify color information as well. A couple of ways you could do this. Now, for example, one is red, no change. The same thing you can put it like this, same color red in different way using RGB values like this, RGB. And we have discussed RGB, you have 3 colors, red, green, blue. The maximum value is going from 0 to 255. Maximum value is 255. That is red. And green is 0. Blue is 0. So if you put that, you will get the same red color. Right? No change of this. You will get red color. Right? And at the same time, if you use the same thing, and then if you use a hash, right, hexadecimal number like FF0000. The first 2 letters is for red. FF means 255 in hex. 00 means green is 0, blue is 0. So in that particular case, you will get, yes, red color. Now, for example, I can take blue color. I can put RGB. That means last one, if you put FF, you see here, we will get blue color, right? So likewise, if I put 0 here and then 255 in the middle, right, that will be green. So you will see there'll be a green color, right? So I hope you can actually work on multiple colors by changing it, right? And if you need some arbitrary color, maybe you can take the paint, yes. And if you go to color information, let me change, okay, edit colors, okay. So if you go to paint, so this color information will be given. Now, if you take red, it says red 255, green 0, blue 0. So that information is there, right? So you can change it, right? If you take blue color, you see that it's red 0, green 0, and blue 255, right? So in that particular way, you can actually change the values as red, green, and blue, and you can take the values. Okay, so that's about the colors. Okay, let's go back. I'm going to go back here. Let's select. Yes, let me share the slides. Okay, so we were discussing the colors. So as I told you, color information we can present in multiple ways. You can give a name, you can give an RGB value separately as decimal values, or you can put the color values as hexadecimal values. So all these are possible. Right, now background color, right, that you can specify the background. Now, for example, if you put body background, it'll change the whole background or the body. But there's the same way you can use background image property, like if you want to put an image, right? Now, for example, let me show you this. So let me go back to my file. Let me share this. This is screen 1. I will remove some of these edges because then it's too much. I will remove. We will have only one now, right? And then I will say, instead of, I will remove any styles. Yes, right now I have this. So if I save it, refresh it, we will have only this. Now you know why we are getting it this orange color, because it applies the internal sheet, right? Now let me put the background image, right? So for example, the images I have a small image called star with, if you remember last time we put the star, right, in background color. So let me put this as a background image. Now let me go back to body, let's say style, and then I'm going to say, okay, background image, and then I will specify the name of this file as star and png. So I already have the file, this star png in my file. So let me show you that one as well. So if I get this, the place where I actually store the file, so we have star. So you see this is png file. So that's exactly what I'm going to take as a background image, right? So body style background image URL star.png. So let me save this. I'm going to save, and then let me refresh it. So there's something wrong. Let me check. Okay, so I have
remove the double quotation for the.
Yes, exactly. So maybe the double quotation here. See, I missed it. No, double quotation here.
Yeah, remove the double quotes.
Yes, exactly. Thanks. So that's where we will see. So you can actually get. So the mistake I made is I put double quotes within the star.png. So when I put under style sheets, you can use this, right? So in that way, you can actually get the image. So this image is actually a little bit larger. Otherwise, this will repeat if it's a very small one. So let me see whether when I increase, yes. So you see that this actually repeats, right? Although, so if I can make it a smaller one, so let's see whether I could make it a smaller one. Let's take the print screen again. Let me take paint again. Paint, right? Control V. I'm going to use it, crop tool to cut this star. Yes, crop it. Let me save it. Yes, I'm going to say star small. Just save it. So now let's see. It looks the same. Yes, it's a very big one. This is smaller, right? Good. So now let me put, instead of this, let me put star small, just to show you like this image will repeat in the background. So we will see it like this, right? Let me resize the font a bit. Yes. So now what you could do is, let's say I don't want to repeat Y, I want to repeat only X direction. So you can add this background repeat. We can say repeat X. So the idea there is, I don't want to repeat everywhere. I want to repeat only, X direction. So that's what I said here. So refresh it. Now you see the images is actually repeated in the X direction only. So likewise, if you put Y here, let me save it. Let's see what will happen. It will repeat it only the Y direction. So that, these things actually you can learn by investigating more on how these, CSS files work. Okay, so that's about the background. So let's go back to again the slides. So we have these backgrounds, and then you can just show one time if you put no repeat. Earlier we said the repeat X, repeat Y. Let's say I want to have only one time the image. Then we could say, okay, no repetition of the background image. And then you can position it, right? Right now we will have, it's in left and top, but you can change the position, right? And then the background image should be fixed. So that we can put this. So all these details you can actually look at using the documentation. So I have given you some direction where what values you could use. Right? So background position, for example, this is the documentation for background position, and the property values are, you can use left top, left center, left bottom, and so on. Right? All these are there. So you should you can learn, how exactly you should use the background. So I'm not going to try these, but I think you could try all these. Right. Then there are shorthand properties. Now, when you have multiple things comes under one. Now, for example, we have background, and then we can change the color. we can change the image, we can change the repetition, we can raise the attachment, and then the position, everything you can put in one, right? Now, for example, instead of just saying background image URL, background I will repeat, you can just say background, and then you can specify in the order, right? For example, this is a color, this is image, this is repetition, attachment, and position, everything you can put it in here, right? So where exactly you can put the values, right? The next is, you have already seen the borders. When it comes to borders, we have seen the solid border. So likewise, there are many border styles are there. You can have dotted border, dash borders, double borders, groove, ridge, insert, outset, and none, hidden, and also like you can combine multiple things in the foresight. You can see here the top we have dotted, and then you have dashed, solid, and then you have double, right? So this is the top one. So you will see the top dash one, it's the right, solid, down, bottom, and the double is in your left hand side. So likewise, you can change the border. Right, now when you put the borders, four borders, the widths you can change. Now, for example, the border width, remember earlier we discussed this, border width you can say 5px. That means 5 pixels. That is fixed width everywhere, the border. You can use the same values like thin, medium, or thick. So that is also possible. So px means pixels. You can put centimeters and so on. But if you want like different widths around the border, then you can specify top, right, bottom, and then left, right? So the top, then we have right, and then the bottom, and then the left. So this is how you may specify different border sizes. Right, border color property is you can actually change the color, the red. Border styles you can also change separately, and then you can actually combine them, right? So the shorthand property, as I told you earlier, you can specify the width, the style, and then the color. So these are the three properties we use. We can say border with three values. The first value is for the width. So when we say 5px, it's 5 pixels all around the border, no change. Then the style is a solid or dash dotted. You can specify, in this particular case it's solid, and the color is red color. Okay, when you want to take borders, you can actually manipulate the border radius, which means you can have rounded corners around the border. Now the property you have to set is border radius 5 pixels. You will see you have rounded corners, 8 pixels more, and when it's at 12 pixels you will see you have nice rounded borders, you can see. So this is very, very important, especially when you want to make these the borders could be used to represent graphical elements. Okay, another important one, we are going to look at the margins. Now, especially when you want to place the text, and you have to think about the space in between, especially when you have a block of elements, right? So when you want to make space around the particular element, right, then you can actually work on margins. So that means all the four margins, the top, right, bottom, and left, you can specify, right? So you can actually use these margin values, the browser default values, we call auto, or else you can specify margin length in pixels, points, centimeters. Percentage mark, specify margin, the percentage of width of the containing element. So this is also possible. And inherit, it will specify the margin should be inherited from the parent. So the values could come from a parent element. So all these are possible with CSS. Right, now for example, when you put up a margin, right, so these values are there. Now for example, you can use 4 values. As I told you, 4 values. The first one is top, the second one is right, then bottom, and then you have a left value. So sometimes you can have only 3 values. So if in a margin, if you have only 3 values, then what it means, you have a top, and both right and left you have 50 pixels, and the bottom you have 75 pixels. If you just put margin 25 and 50, all 4 is 25 pixels. Right. Now there are 2 elements that we have not discussed yet. It's a div element as a block element and the span. So these 2 are used in CSS. When you want to define styles, right? So the division, we call it the block element. Usually we could put div element for that. And the other one in inline styles, we use span element. So in this particular case, we will use div, and then we can define the widths, margins, and the borders. So you can see here, we define what we call the div, and then we will get width 300 pixel, margin is auto, and then we specify small border 1 pixel, solid and red. So that is for the div element. Now in this particular case, the second example, what you see is you have a div element again, and then we have paragraph, and with ex1 you get the margin left inherit, meaning you are getting that the margin details from the previous one. So 100 pixels. So that's why you will have the same space. Okay, next look at padding. I think I should show you the box model. Now, so far what we have discussed 2 things. We talk about the margin, the border, and now we are going to look at the padding. So whenever you put something in, it applies this box model. Whatever you type within a HTML element, you can see these set of boxes. So the contents really, outside the content you have a padding, and then you have the border, then you have the margin, right? So you should be able to manipulate this if you want to efficiently work with the CSS, right? So let me finish padding and finish for today, because I will finish it like 3 o'clock today, and I will assign a group work among yourself so that you work on that, and you can submit it later on. Right, CSS padding, the property user generate around the element's content inside any defined border. So once you have border in it, I told you, so the space in between we call padding. Now, for example, here we have some text, and then we have a border, and within that we have some space. So this space we call padding. And after the border also you have a space. So that is called margin. So whenever you work with the HTML tags, you have to think about this, right? So the padding is a space. So padding we can define as a top, right, bottom, and left. Especially the space between the border as well as the content, right? So these are some of the examples. Like earlier, you can specify the 4 places separately, or else you can put 3 values, then it's right and left is used. And finally, we have padding. So all the places you can have, 4. So that's about the padding. Okay, I think we'll do exercise next week. I want you to start looking at CSS if this is the first time. I will also upload the notes today for last session as well as this session, right? So that you can go through and come. Right, having said that, now I want you to work on the group work. Let me show you what you are supposed to do in the project. Let me share this briefly. First of all, last time in the group work, you have identified the problem, right? And then I want you to work on developing forms or the layout to actually get information for your project, right? So let's start with the course. We have right. Let me share the group work. This is the complete one. Again, I will upload today, but let me describe what you are supposed to do for today. Right. Now, these are the things you need to do. I will upload, links for each of these tasks. Now, since you have already have the groups, so you are going to create what we call the education software system using the web technologies. I already told you, you should, identify key objects of the software system and the users, right? And the functionalities and all the modeling techniques, and then finally the implementation, right? So when I need the submission, you can think about user requirements, design models like ER diagrams, user interfaces. Now, for example, since you have already done forms, now you should be able to create instant user interfaces using HTML and CSS. And then you can also look at the logins of multiple users. You can develop the database, and then you can also restrict access to some pages for some users. Right now, for example, some pages should be visible only for managers in the organization. Then use CSS. You should use appropriate background colors, text colors, right? For this, right? Okay. Having said that, let me finish for today. So today's group work, I want you to create couple of forms that you need for your software system. Use HTML and CSS to create several inputs, right? So forms. So I want you to work on groups. That means your project group together to find out what is the user interfaces look like. Now, for example, we have to create, let's say, to get the person information, you can create a form for that using HTML and CSS, and that's exactly what you should submit. Okay, having said that, let me finish for today, and we'll be meeting in next week. I'll put up the submission link the later on. Okay, thanks then. Let's meet again in next week.
Thank you, sir.